Hello, my fellow Americans. Today is the 6th of March, 2025, and this is A Quiet Rage. It's been a recurring theme that pretty much as soon as I publish my whatever episode I'm working on, I start thinking of what I'm going to talk about in the next episode. And I have an idea, except that I have no idea because I have an embarrassment of riches. It is the stated goal of this administration to flood the zone. It is no accident that we are just getting fed a constant barrage of insanity. That's on purpose. This is done on purpose. So while I'm always thinking of what my next episode is going to be, I don't really know what my next episode is going to be about until, I don't know, a couple hours really before I start filming. Usually as I'm walking the dogs, I start formulating, picking pieces, things, throughout the week that I've been thinking about, and deciding what I'm going to talk about. I will, at some point, talk about the presidential address to the joint session of Congress, but I haven't watched it yet. On Tuesday, when it was happening, I was doing something much more important. I was playing video games with my friends. I will watch it though, and I will watch the rebuttal, the English rebuttal. I don't speak Spanish, so I don't. Well, I don't know. I may watch the Spanish rebuttal. I don't know if it's any different. Anyway, but I'm not going to comment on it until I've watched it. I've seen some of the lowlights, and anyway, we'll get there. Tonight, I want to start not with a current event, but with something that happened 30 years ago. In particular, happened almost exactly 30 years ago in 1994. It's something called the Budapest Memorandum, or more officially, the Budapest Memorandum on Security Assurances. If you haven't heard of this, I don't think you should feel embarrassed. I don't think most Americans have heard of it, really. It might have made a splash at the time, but nobody really seems to be up on it. So we're going to talk about it a little bit. Why is this important? Well, because after the fall of the Soviet Union, there were obviously we now have Russia, the largest country that still maintains its sovereignty out of what was the Soviet Union. But there were other smaller nations that were created out of the ashes of the USSR after its collapse. And there was a great deal of concern about what would happen with, in particular, the nuclear weapons that were within the borders of what had been member states of the USSR, but were now independent states in their own right. In particular, Ukraine. See where this is going? After the fall of the Soviet Union, within Ukraine's borders, there were about 1,700 nuclear warheads of various types. whether it be intercontinental ballistic missiles, bombs to be dropped from high-altitude bombers, whatever it may be. 1,700, approximately, nuclear warheads. And this was of great concern to everybody. And the United States and Russia and the United Kingdom brokered a deal with Belarus, Kazakhstan, and the Ukraine to prevent these nuclear weapons. In part, there were other assurances, other agreements, but a big part of the purpose of the Budapest Memorandum was to get control of the nuclear stockpile, the nuclear weapon stockpile in these countries. As a matter of fact, in the founding document that created the country of Ukraine, it states that they will neither accept, manufacture, or use nuclear weapons. They, Ukraine, agreed to completely denuclearizing their arsenal. A project that took until 2008, actually, to complete. The concern, of course, was that in a new country, excuse me, with unestablished security and defense protocols and such, nuclear weapons could be bought and sold on the black market. Nobody wants anything like that. Nuclear weapons could be used by rogue factions. So, in an effort to denuclearize, and with security assurances from all the other countries that signed this, Russia, the United States, and the United Kingdom, and also China and, was it France? Yes. Also made agreements to mutual self-assurance, mutual safety assurances, security assurances that nobody would attack none of these countries would attack each other. And in return, Ukraine gave up its entire nuclear stockpile. And not surprisingly, there were Ukrainian politicians who thought that this was a bad deal. That giving up their entire nuclear stockpile would make them vulnerable to Russia aggression. Weird, huh? That was 30 years ago, though, right? And there is, other than the agreement to mutual security, an agreement to not attack each other, except in self-defense, there's not a whole lot of legal mechanisms in this agreement. And Vladimir Putin has actually he made up this excuse that when a new government took over in Ukraine, that it basically made Ukraine a new country, and therefore nothing in this Budapest Memorandum applied anymore. And thus annexed Crimea and then invaded Ukraine wholesale. So the reason I bring this up is because only 6 days ago, it seems like it was so much longer than that, the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, sat in the Oval Office with the President of the United States and the Vice President of the United States, two complete idiots who either don't know the history of this even though they certainly should. I mean, if you're if you're talking with a world leader, the leader of a country, about keeping his country safe from another aggressor country, you should understand the history of how we got here. I think the average American could be forgiven for not knowing what these memorandum are. But the president and the vice president, they ought to know. They ought to be well versed on this. And either they're not, or they don't care. Either way, that's unacceptable. It's a violation of, well, not a violation. Well, yeah, it's a violation of the trust that we give elected officials like this to know what the fuck they're talking about. So when the president of Ukraine brings a list of 25 ceasefire agreements that Russia has broken and says, in addition to breaking the Budapest Memorandum, we've tried on 25 different occasions to negotiate with Russia for a ceasefire. They've signed something and then broken it. That's why Zelensky isn't interested in discussing anything that involves a ceasefire. That's why he wants security guarantees from the United States. And we owe him that because we as a country, asked them as a country, hey, can we help you get rid of those nuclear weapons? We don't feel safe with them in your country. And they said, well, yeah, I guess we could probably do that, but we're going to need some help. We owe that to them. I don't think there's any other way to put it. We, in exchange for them denuclearizing, we owe them the security, the military aid and the security guarantees that they're trying to get. And by the way, in the 3 years of this conflict so far, the Ukrainian army, the Ukrainian military, has exacted some heavy losses on Russian forces. Like, these dudes are putting in some work. What is allegedly one of the most powerful militaries in the world, Russia's, has had a lot. I mean, they've advanced through Ukrainian territory, absolutely. Often because we have paused sending them the aid that they need. We are helping another country to wage a war against our common enemy, Russia, without having to fire a single shot or put any boots on the ground of our own. No Americans have shed blood, sweat, or tears, unless they have Ukrainian family members, in this conflict. We haven't had to do anything. Does that make it a proxy war? That's a conversation we could have later. But our common enemy is being beaten by a smaller country, a smaller military, with our help, but without any boots on the ground. We're getting really good value for our money, honestly. It's disappointing to me that I keep having to have these conversations. In the last 6 days, I've had a few conversations with people, mostly, in the best place you can have a political conversation, on Facebook. And it really bothers me that people here in America, sitting comfortably in their homes, free from anything like the terror and the dread of an approaching Russian army, we don't have to deal with any of that. And to have people in this country in that position, in a position of comfort and safety, trying to say that Zelensky should just give up now, just cede the territory that's already been lost and cut his losses and negotiate for peace based on the current front lines, basically. I cannot imagine the level of... It's not hubris. I don't know. The unmitigated gall to try and say that he should just cut his losses and give up. Vladimir Putin is a bully. The only way you defeat a bully, really, is by fighting back. Because a bully, there's only one thing a bully respects, and it's strength. If you keep showing weakness, he's just going to keep coming. There is every reason to know, not even belief, it's knowledge. We can sit firm in the knowledge that if Ukraine were to sue for peace right now, say, okay, the front line is now our new border. You get everything west of that, east of that, rather. And we will be a smaller country. There's every reason to believe that 6 months, a year, 2 years down the road, Putin will say, aha, hey, you know what? Actually, I want more. I want more. There's every reason to believe that would happen. Because it has happened. We thought, well, Crimea, that's all he wants back. That'll be good. No, that was not it. It's disappointing to me that Americans will sit safe on this side of the ocean, as we have many times before, and say, that's... Not only is that not our problem, should we have nothing to do with it, but I think I can tell those people that in that country how they should be conducting themselves. I just can't. I don't know what look I would have to put on my face to say something like that and actually mean it. It's shameful. All right, so what can we do? As I'm gonna beat this drum constantly. Find your local Democratic organization and join. Go volunteer. Just go to meetings. Just hang out. Just do stuff. Join. Be with your people. I went to another meeting. My first meeting as an actual member of my local Democrats organization, and it was fantastic. It was absolutely fantastic. We heard some good speakers, including the woman that one of the women that is running for Attorney General of the Commonwealth of Virginia. We got to hear her speak, and then after the meeting, there's a bit of an after party at a local bar. Went there and sat next to this really amazing woman and got to talk to her for like 45 minutes and picked her brain about what does a state's attorney general actually do, and how does she feel about X and Y and Z, and had a really good conversation. And I went home feeling energized and ready to go. I'm I'm ready. I'm so excited. Still. So I'm telling you, find your people. I keep saying that. But another thing I think is good, something I think we should all do, is define for yourself what your politics are. It's easy to register Democrat, Republican, Independent, whatever. It's easy to say, this is what I am. It's easy. You put a sign in your yard, put a bumper sticker on your vehicle. But do you actually know what your politics are? What do you stand for? What is important to you? What is your position? What do you call yourself? What do you actually call yourself? For me, and this is when I'm walking the dogs, this is something I think about and sometimes even talk about out loud. I'm sure people that see me out the window are like, what the heck? Anyway, but I've decided, after many walks of the dogs, that I am an ethically scientific social democrat. That's how I label myself. Scientific because I think we should make decisions to a large degree, political decisions to a large degree, we should make them based on information. Not just data, not just numbers, but information. The difference between data and information is data is just numbers. Information is, what do these numbers mean? How do these, something that Doge isn't familiar with. What are the follow-on effects of these numbers? What are the causes of these numbers? If you change these numbers, what happens? Ethical, because, the Nazis had scientists. I believe we should make political decisions based on an ethical use of scientific information. I am a social democrat because I think it is the job of our government, it is the purpose of our government to do the most good for the greatest amount of people while limiting the detrimental effects to the greatest extent possible. And specifically, I'm a Democrat because there's no such thing as a moral imperative for the stock market or for the economy in general. There's no such thing as a moral imperative for big business. And people will act against their own self-interest. We need regulations. We need guidelines. We need social norms. We need to be told how to behave in a society to limit friction within said society. We need rules, we need regulations, we need laws, and we need regulatory bodies to monitor big corporations and rich people, because they're not going to monitor themselves. They never really have. Not really. So that's me. I am also an intersectional feminist, which is feminism in a way that benefits not just women, but benefits everybody. And not just people that are assigned female at birth, but trans women. I am for diversity. I am for equity. I am for inclusion. I try to define my politics, what I am for, less than what I'm against, because that's a positive mindset. This is what I am for. Implied is what you're against. I am against hatred and bigotry and oligarchy and grifting and, well, basically everything that the Trump administration is doing. I could go on, but the point is, if somebody asks you what makes you a Democrat, why are you a Democrat, I think you should have some kind of an answer as to what that is. I mean, and it needs to be more than I'm pro-choice. That's a good thing to be. In my opinion, I am very much pro-choice. But you need to have, you don't need to have every answer, but you need to have some answers. Why do I feel like I align with the Democratic Party more so than the Republican Party? I mean, I think that's important. You should be able to verbalize what it is you stand for, and a little bit of why. That's all I got for you this week. Again, I want to talk about that joint address that presidential address to the joint session of Congress. I just know that something in the next 6 days is gonna pop up, and so I might do an unscheduled episode just on that whenever I do get to watch it. You may get a bonus episode out of me. We'll see. What I got for you. Find your people, gather amongst your people, and know why those are your people. Know what you are, know who you are, and be able to verbalize that. It's very important. If you feel like I feel that what's going on in this country right now is not normal, is not okay, keep your powder dry and keep that quiet rage. Good night, my fellow